Welcome to the channel Opera Steps. My name is Vlada Besman. I'm a musicologist and opera coach. On this channel we talk about the amazing world of opera. Today I'm in Greek city of Chalkis or Negroponte, where the action of the Rossini's opera Maometto II took place in the dark medieval time, when the city of Chalkis was called Negroponte. Actually, Rossini's opera is the story of the siege of Chalkis or Negroponte in 1470 by the Turkish Sultan Maometto II and the defense of the city by the Venetian army. Negroponte played a significant role in the history of Frankish Greece and was attacked by the Principality of Achaia in the War of the Boeotian Succession in 1257. The Catalan Company in 1317, the Turks in 1350. Till it was finally captured by the Ottoman Empire after a long siege in 1470. That siege is the subject of the Rossini opera Maometto II. The Ottomans made Negroponte the seat of the Admiral of the Aegean Islands. In 1688 it was successfully held by the Ottomans against the strong Venetian attack. The opera Maometto Secondo is a drama in 2 acts. The composer of the opera is Gioacchino Rossini and the author of the libretto is Cesare della Valle. The premiere took place in Naples, at the Teatro San Carlo on the 3rd of December in 1820. All action takes place in medieval Negroponte. In the first act, Maometto II leads his large army holding the siege of the Venetian colony. The Turkish Sultan wants to burn the city if the gates will not be opened to him. The Venetian general Calbo doesn't want to surrender. The entire military council supports him. At the same time, Paolo Erisso worries about his daughter Anna. Paolo promises to marry his daughter to Calbo, who will protect her. They should get married in front of Anna's mother's grave, but the girl tells her father that she is in love with King Uberto of Mytilene, and it turns out that she fell in love with an impostor who pretended to be Uberto in Corinth. Yes, it's actually a very twisted story. Suddenly a traitor opens the gate to Maometto. Erisso gives the dagger to Anna and she goes to pray in the chapel. Calbo and Erisso are captured. Maometto meets Anna and falls in love with her. He promises to save Paolo from death if the fortress capitulates. Paolo refuses and Maometto orders everyone to be executed. Suddenly Anna appears and recognizes in Maometto a man posing as Uberto. Anna says that she will kill herself if the Sultan does not release her father and supposedly her brother, Calbo, from imprisonment. Maometto asks Anna to be with him and releases the prisoners. However, it is difficult for the girl to find the answer and she doubts. In the second act, Anna wants to escape from Maometto, but he tells her that he loves her very much. Suddenly everyone learns that the invaders have retreated. Because of this, Maometto decides to lead the troops personally into another offensive. When he leaves, he gives Anna one ring, with which all his people will serve her. Maometto gives his word that he will be angry if Anna refuses him when he returns. Suddenly, Anna hears the voice of God, who calls her to heroic deeds. Calbo and Erisso are afraid that new enemy forces will come, and Erisso cries at his wife's grave. He is ready to believe that his daughter has become a traitor. However, Calbo says that Anna is not a traitor. Suddenly, Anna herself comes to the crypt to give them Turkish clothes and Maometto's ring. Erisso blesses Anna and Calbo for marriage at her mother's grave. Finally. When Anna is left alone, the women tell her to run away quickly because Maometto's guards are looking for her everywhere. Anna is glad that her loved ones were saved. When the guards of Sultan entered the crypt, she began to expose her body to the dagger of the soldiers. The soldiers were very surprised by this, so they did not touch her. Maometto appears, and Anna tells him that Calbo became her husband. Looking into Maometto's eyes, she says that now her mother's grave will be sprinkled with blood. Everyone is horrified, and Anna stabs herself with the dagger and falls dead on the grave. This is perhaps Rossini's most militant and temperamental opera, built almost entirely on high-speed coloraturas. The main characters here rattle weapons, curse each other, or get ready for battle. The energy degree is simply outrageous, as well as the vocal difficulties awaiting those daredevils who will take up the performance of Maometto Secondo. To maintain the proper tension, Rossini boldly plays on the verge of kitsch and self-parody, which is reminiscent of modern filmmakers like Tim Burton or Terry Gilliam. Due to the excess of temperament, even the most tragic moments threaten to look overly optimistic, and bravura and unnaturally complicated coloraturas can cause just unplanned laughter. This is why the fate of Maometto Secondo on the opera stage was not very successful, although it is difficult to blame Rossini for this. It is truly great when an opera is unlike any other, and how it will be perceived depends on the talent of the conductor and the singers. Not only Rossini, but also, for example, Wagner made insanely high demands on vocalists, which did not prevent the Valkyria or Siegfried from appearing on the opera stage with enviable regularity. All this understandable. Rossini saved the best for last, considering the almost 3-hour length of the opera. The situation begins to improve half an hour after the end of the overture, with the tragic prayer of the main character Anna, a forerunner of similar scenes in Bellini's and Verdi's operas. After that, the composer picks up the tempo and doesn't stop almost until the very end. It becomes difficult for the listener to follow the plot, and the ears cannot keep up with all these twisting coloratura passages on the backdrop of raging violins and flutes. But the music of the opera is not so much elegant as military bravura. Therefore, there is a complicity of actions that are demonstrated on the stage. Rossini managed to convey the feeling of overflowing emotions here even better than Verdi. There is only one problem. The tragic content is hopelessly drowning in the ocean of burning emotions. The part of Maometto Secondo is perhaps the heaviest part of coloratura bass in the history of opera. The main thing here is not to cross the border that separates his character from the comedic Turks, from Mozart's Abduction from the Seraglio or Rossini's The Italian Girl in Algiers. And this is difficult to do because Rossini deliberately uses the techniques of comic opera to give this character a touch of smugness and swagger. But this is only a shade, a small nuance and woe to that singer who will be carried away by comedic intonations, because this hero should feel both power and charisma and courage and wisdom. So Rossini's coloratures here are rather a broken, more energetically saturated melodic contour, which outlines a strong-willed heroic character. Approximately the same approach Rossini demonstrates in the interpretation of the tenor part of Erisso, but it's easier for a tenor due to the metal in his voice and sharper intonations. The tenor can bring heroism to any coloratura part. Well, the bass in such a part can only be rescued by the transcendent power and Schalapin's type of personality, otherwise the comic effect will prevail. Perhaps in terms of its musical virtues, Maometto Secondo cannot compete with such masterpieces of Rossini in the genre of serious opera as the early Tancred or the late Semiramide. But this partitura, of course, anticipated the last of the named masterpieces of the composer. It is no coincidence that Rossini subsequently created for Paris a three-act French version called The Siege of Corinth in 1826, on the basis of Maometto Secondo. The libretto of Maometto Secondo should be recognized not so much as confusing, but rather insufficiently elaborated dramaturgically. The viewer learns only in the course of the story about important events in the life of the main character Anna, which are not in the opera itself. So when it turns out that her former secret lover Umberto is the formidable Sultan Maometto II, it's impossible to get rid of the feeling of grotesque and operetta, which is hard to imagine in the opera seria genre. The final part of the opera is different in several versions. In the first, everything ends tragically. In the second, Venetian version, Rossini changed the ending to a happy one for the sake of the audience, but it did not benefit the music. Of course, there is a certain effect of surprise in this, and the final soprano coloratura area is clearly not bad, but all this makes the action even more sketchy in terms of drama, and the title character Maometto suffers especially, simply failing out of the action without any final point in his fate. So we can speak about the true dramatic meaning of this opera only after listening to the first Neapolitan edition and the third French one, known as The Siege of Corinth. The Venetian edition is reminiscent of an episode of some battle series. It was filmed spectacularly, but we would like to know what will happen next. Otherwise, it will turn out that the whole film was filmed only for the sake of battle special effects. I said it and now I'm thinking, why not? Why does everyone always have to suffer and die at the end of the opera? In any case, I will leave several performances of Maometto Secondo below this video. So that is all for today. I wish you all the best and see you in the next video.